up ahead. Affirmative 612.
What's up, Scott? This week we're going to talk about college and retirement, my friend. Something that's a little near and dear to your heart right this minute as you're kind of going through it. Do parents pick one or the other? Do they sacrifice too much for one or the other? We'll get into it this week. How are you, my friend?
Doing great. How about you?
Doing pretty good. Feeling all right. Hanging in there. Looking to chat with you about this. So tell us why you're in the thick of this. What's going on there?
Well, my oldest of 7 started school this week down there at Bowling Green State University. So she's going to be a BG Falcon.
Okay.
And, so it's a mid-size from like a football perspective to give some context. It's like a mid-sized Division I school. Although they did just pick up Eddie George as their new football coach. So.
Oh, wow. Man, Eddie George was a beast.
He was. So, but yeah, BG is kind of one of those places. It's always been like a stepping stone for, like Urban Meyer coached there before. A couple other NFL coaches have coached there before. So it's always that place where people go. And I think even maybe either Saban or Belichick might have coached there before. I'm not 100% sure, but
his debut at Carolina at the time we're taping this was last night was not what he probably hoped it would be. So.
Yeah, who knows what kind of energy he has for the game at that level.
They got a little spanked last night, but
yeah.
But listen, we got some findings here. We'll post links to them in the show descriptions for folks from Citizens Financials Group 2024 College Planning Study, as well as Sallie Mae's How America Pays for College. Just so folks, if they want to kind of read through some of that stuff themselves, but let's just dive into it. Planning ahead or not, right? 1 in 5 parents admit that they focus on getting the child into college without thinking about how to pay for it, per that Citizens Financial Group. What do you see in your experience?
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think, people tend to fall in one of two camps. One is either they thought about it early and often, and I would say they tend to almost have it overfunded. Or one is the other camp is they haven't thought about it much at all, and there tends to be no plan. And so, both of those approaches have good and bad to them, I'll say. I mean, if you've overfunded saving for your kids' college, with some of the recent tax law changes, it is nice. You can use some of those funds if they go unused. You can also, transition it with some nuances behind it, but you can transition it into like a Roth IRA for that beneficiary. You can also change the account beneficiary from one person to another.
That was part of the Secure Act 2.0, right? They added that little Roth provision. That was nice. That was a good change.
Yeah, it is nice. I mean, so there's, to me, it's not like use it or lose it money. I mean, it's good to have it there. So if you're going to be in one of these two camps, probably being in the overfunded camp is definitely one that's beneficial. And I think, people are realizing that, higher ed is not necessarily what it used to be, even in the 90s and early 2000s. I mean, over the last couple decades, so many people have gone to college, and you look at the data behind how many people are college educated now to, 2 generations ago. Yeah. And obviously, from a supply and demand standpoint, as supply of college educated people has increased, the lucrative pay that comes from that has diminished somewhat. So,
trades have gone the other way, right? So, I mean, there's a lot to be said for, depending on the type of person you are, to look into the trades, because
absolutely,
we are woefully understaffed in the trades.
Well, and I think too, you look at, on average, most people have whatever it is, 2.3 kids in the U.S. I know that number's going down a little bit, but
right.
You look at trying to pay for college for 2 kids, and I think of, overfunding and saving too aggressively for that is one thing. But, if you're in the camp where it's like, hey, we spend all we make, even if I make $500,000 a year, if I spend it all on lifestyle and save none of it, then that's going to create problems, because either I'm not going to have enough saved up for my kiddo for college, or I'm going to end up spending it on other items, and I still have this gap, and I got to then go into debt to pay for my kids' college.
Well, that's a great segue. Let's talk about that. And again, this survey was done in 2024, so certainly feeling the ramifications of inflation's heights. 2022 to 24. 58% of parents say the cost of living has impacted their ability to cover college. and 40% are just juggling larger amounts of debt, to your point. So when does it make sense to pause one item or the other, right? Do we pause retirement depending on where you're at in life to help kids in funding, or do you pause the college, right? That's a big question for a lot. And so many people have had kids later in life, Scott, that it's it's kind of that catch-22. Like we were kind of lucky, and we have one kid, my wife and I, and she went to college, a few years ago. We've been empty nesters for like a decade. So,
right.
So we got lucky in that regard.
Yeah. I mean, to me, I think it is typically not recommended. And I've never made this recommendation. I can't imagine a situation I would, where we say we're going to push pause on saving for retirement to fund college expenses. There might be some extreme circumstances. I personally haven't run into them, but I'm sure there's some folks out there who are overfunded for retirement, and they have a child who's going to go to an Ivy League school, or they're going to go to, medical school or something like that. So there are some unique circumstances.
Sure. Yeah.
But if you look at, to me, I look at college education as an investment. I'm in the investment business. And so one of the things that we really want to look at is like, what is the return on that investment? So I'll use my oldest as an example right now.
Point. Yeah.
So we said, hey, she wants to be a school teacher. That's amazing. We need great school teachers. I'm excited for you to do that.
Absolutely.
I'm a big Notre Dame fan. So as an example, we're not going to send you to Notre Dame to get a 4-year teaching degree, which I don't even know if you can get at Notre Dame, for roughly, including lodging and everything, $300,000 for you to come back to Northwest Ohio and make, maybe $40,000 a year right out of school.
Yeah.
It's just like the return on investment doesn't make sense. And so like for Faith specifically, she really, for any of the younger pilots out there who maybe have younger kids, you really want to encourage them to take advantage of this college credit plus while they're still in high school.
Great
CCP,
point.
if you haven't heard of it.
Yeah.
So Faith graduated high school with her freshman year of college done. So she's in class today in her second week of school as a sophomore.
Yeah.
She just graduated high school in June. And so, and with some scholarship money that she has coming in strictly for her academics through a state school, she's going to get her teaching degree for like $11,000. Dude.
Yeah, man. I'm right there with you. Our daughter graduated high school with her 2 years associates because she went to college early classes as a high school student. So she only had to do 2 years at the big school, right?
Right.
A lot of money saved, right?
A ton of money saved. And, and to me, it depends what the kids want to do too. I mean, if they're going to go, study some liberal arts or something because they're not sure what they want to do, that's, obviously a different conversation. But I mean, I think for kids that like maybe have some good clarity on what they want to do and you can get them on a certain track. But, even if they're not 100% sure what their degree is, a lot of that CCP stuff knocks out some of those just core classes.
The core
you're gonna
stuff.
get in any freshman, sophomore level bachelor's education. So I'm not an education expert in that space, but in terms of like how to pay for it, really encouraging the kids to take some ownership early, I think is a very important part of it. And if I'm being very candid here with you, Mark, there's a certain level for the kids, I think too, where they take a higher level of ownership when they know that they got some skin in the game, even financially. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Well, to that point again, Scott, talking about it is the next point here, being very candid and having real conversations with your kids. Check this out. This kind of blows my mind a little bit. 47% of parents would rather talk about drugs and 30% would rather talk about politics with their kids than the cost of college. That's why, I mean, look, talking about drugs is very important. Don't get me wrong, right? But you got to talk about the cost of college with your kids. So they, to your point, have skin in the game. To your, what you just said with your own daughter, that's genius, right? Look, $300,000 to go to this kind of school would make no sense.
Right. Well, I think part of the reason that we look at, like, if I was asking the question, like, hey, why is this conversation so uncomfortable to talk about college with kids? Many times it's because I think the parents are not financially prepared to either shoulder the burden all on their own. And I'm not saying they should, but they feel like that. Or they're not prepared to lead their child through navigating that system from a financial perspective. And I think what's tough about that is a lot of parents and I think kids they get their identity wrapped up in where their kid's going to school. Like nobody wants to be at the high school graduation where they're like, oh, my kid's going to the local community college or whatever. I mean, I think that's like some common misnomer, but it's like, well, I want to be the person that's like, oh, my kid's going to UCLA or USC. That's why we had all those college scandals around, some of the stars out on the West Coast.
So silly, right? I mean, just do what's best for them and best for what they want in life.
Yeah, I think people feel just a lot of social pressure to, send their kid to a certain university for a certain experience. Like, I know one of the jokes I would always share with my kids is like, I remember going on a tour for a school when I was getting recruited to play college football. And, they had the little chocolate milk station in the cafeteria. And, this was like a smaller school. So I had like partial scholarship and then it was going to be partial loans. And I'm like, man, I can't imagine like taking loans out to pay for my chocolate milk and just paying that down over these years. So like my kids are familiar with this joke where I'm like, hey, mom and dad are not financing your chocolate milk. That's a fact. You know what I mean?
There you go.
And so, but I think there's some pressure that people put on themselves. Like, hey, my kid needs to go to XYZ school. And, some of it I definitely understand. If you think a kid is on a certain track or you want to set them up for a certain kind of career. But again, you got to look at it on a kid by kid basis. And I mean, how many people right now are out there paying student loans or their parents are paying on student loans for them to become a software engineer who just got laid off because AI has taken their job too?
Great point.
And to me, I think this is something like, that it's just worth considering in terms of, again, what is the return on investment? And so, and when we talk about our kids, I have all girls, but so we talk about the total woman, right? So the college education is not just about, getting them to get a degree and get into some profession. I mean, that is like the main portion of it, but there are aspects of the college experience too that we want to, understand are more about developing the total man or the total woman too. So there's that aspect to it that I think is very important to consider. So it's a case by case basis, but man, I tell you, dude, I just would shy away from anybody going into significant amounts of debt or threatening their own retirement.
Hey everyone, real quick, if you haven't grabbed Scott's Financial Flight Control Toolkit yet, now is the time. This is packed with tons of helpful resources and tools like this, Scott's book, The Dichotomy of Wealth, which is a pilot's guide to maximizing wealth and cash flow in retirement. You also get access to some great guides like this one, Advice Matters, which breaks down 4 key ways a good financial advisor can help you boost your returns over time. And guides like this one on the pitfalls of emotions when it comes to investing, and this one on the HCM byline investment strategy, and more. So if you'd like your very own Financial Flight Control Toolkit, just click the link in today's show description, and Scott and the team will be happy to get one sent your way at absolutely no cost to you.
All right, Scott, so let's talk about the ripple effect on retirement. A little rapid fire here. What parents, are doing to put their kids through college. 19% took on a second job. 30% borrowed from a 401k or liquidated investments. I know that's no, right? 26% stopped investing entirely. 66% cut major expenses and vacations. What are these numbers like? You're looking at this. Does it make you cringe as an advisor?
I mean, to me, it's a little bit of a mixed bag there, right? I mean, if you wanted to take on a second job, I mean, to me, like sometimes you got to do what you got to do to support your family or support your kids. Especially for some of our pilots. I mean, they, have pretty good incomes and they have, good flexibility. So if there was something they wanted to take on to, bring on a little bit of extra cash flow, I would encourage that. Over going into debt or stopping to save for their own retirement. And, even for us, like when I look at like cutting major purchases or vacations, I mean, vacation, like our own, I mean, just getting into our stuff, like our vacation is getting dialed down a little bit moving forward, partly because of the stage of life we're in. Like, hey, we hit it hard the last handful of years because it's like we're getting ready to have a graduating senior. So I think, cutting some vacations down can make a lot of sense. I mean, because you're entering a new season of life and to free up some cash flow to provide for that investment for that child.
Sure.
No problem with that whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, these are all noble things to do for your children,
Yeah.
sacrifices to make, right? But again, what are the smarter choices,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
The second job is certainly a smarter choice than, for say, liquidating a 401k.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and to me, those are things that it's hard to really state, and most people don't understand the full impact of how much that hurts them when they're disrupting that compound interest. Like you're really never going to catch up. That's like a decision you make that starts to change the trajectory of your retirement. So, and again, I know one of the other, ones you brought up too, right? I mean, most people, 62% are expecting retirement delays.
Right.
That's something for a lot of our folks, if their mandatory retirement date is 65, that is what it is. You're not going to extend it. But that's true. That is one I feel like you can at least start to scenario plan like, hey, maybe I have an aggressive target of retiring by 60. And then if I am going to, dial back maybe my non 401k savings and maximize cash flow to educate my kids for, 5-7 years. Or if you're in my situation, I don't know, I'm going to have a kids in college for like 16 years between all 7 of them. And in doing that, maybe I have to work until 65 instead of 60. That's okay. But, at least run the numbers and feel okay with the consequences of your decision. I think it's a little reckless to just say, hey, I'm going to do this and then I'll just deal with it later. I mean, that's not, does that sound like wisdom?
That's not a plan. Yeah,
it's not a plan.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, what other advice do you have for parents balancing retirement and college with some of the vehicles out there, right? The 529, the Roth, we talked about a little bit of some of that. What other advice do you have? Because it is tough right now. We do feel like, how do you balance? How do you find the balance?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing for maybe some of the younger parents out there, if you can get your kids on a certain academic track with good test scores and good GPAs and what have you, that's gonna be a big part that just helps get college paid for through scholarships.
And that early college credit stuff too we talked about earlier with our own kids, man, big time help.
So I mean, there's 2 things. If your child is like testing well enough, going to a state school, front loading a bunch of CCP in high school, and all their college is getting covered, guess what? If you have 0% saved for it and it's 100% paid for, it doesn't matter. So that's probably the easiest way I can say, like encourage that investment early in your child. Okay. But if we're at game time and they're getting ready to go to school, I mean, if we have 529 plans, that's what it's there for. Feel good about using it. And if it's not all going to get used, it's not that big a deal. Cause as we said, up to 35 grand of it years later can be converted over to a Roth IRA for your child. And so, is it huge life-changing money? No, but man, you pass it on to them and compound it. I mean, you get their retirement set up early too, which is awesome. But aside from that, I mean, yes, we would look at trying to cash flow it first. Second, we would look at like taxable brokerage accounts. Maybe there are some investments that we could sell off, but that's going to be outside of our 401k, outside of our retirement accounts. So there's some ways there that we would maybe look at trying to just come up with cash flow. But that to me is probably the number one thing that we're looking at. Hey, we're going to use 529s. We're going to use cash flow. And then for those that have maybe been planning a little bit in advance for this, they could also have some sort of insurance policy that they could borrow against and use that as well. So those would probably be the 3 most common ways that we'd recommend trying to figure out how to get it paid for without taking debt out.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, right, helping your kids does not have to mean sacrificing your retirement future, but it's about balance, right? So you got to find that balance. You've got to look for the ways that you can do that. And a good financial professional can help you do that. So again, if you need some help, reach out to Scott, get onto the calendar. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. We certainly appreciate your time and it supports the channel, all that good stuff. You can find all the links in the show descriptions down below. So just click on one of those to get some time on Scott's calendar. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button, thumbs up, and notification bell so you catch new episodes when they come out. Scott, my friend, thanks for breaking it down, and good luck with the new college admissions. Hopefully it goes well.
Thanks, brother. Well, cheers. We'll see you soon.
And you're in school too, so you guys could compare notes, right? So
no plagiarism going on. We're good.
Oh, okay. No, that's good. That's probably a good tactic too as well. So, all right, we'll see you next time, folks, here on the Wealthy Pilots Podcast with Scott Osborn. Catch you later. Thank you.
Information is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute tax, investment, or legal advice. Always consult with a qualified investment, legal, or tax professional before taking any action.